There are two major news items coming into the Round of Quincy, the first of which being that Matt Taylor, driver of the number 12 Delano Gaznier for the Majestic Motorsports team, has purchased the old Wabash Raceway in Indiana, so it's good to see that one of the older tracks in the Master Cup Series has been rejuvenated, and looks like they'll see a bit of a local racing series there, and possibly a couple of test days. The track last held a Master Cup race in 1992. I don't think it has the facilities to run a race with the current grid sizes that we have today. The second major news item was a practice incident between Ethan Everett and Allie Riggs, in which Riggs turned into Ethan Everett's car, launching it over the Turn 3 wall. Ethan Everett was none too pleased with Allie Riggs, but the officials apparently had a talk with both drivers, so we'll have to see how that pans out for the race. Dan, off to you. Thank you, Lance. Taking out the Delano Pole Award is Kurt Pliskin and the Spark Boy number 16 JD Predator for Power Steering Incorporated. This may be the last time we see the Spark Boy colors on car 16 this year. He's got a few other sponsors that will be making their appearance starting in the next race. Alan Hodges is going to get a good run on the back straightaway on the first lap, and Hodges is going to move into the lead, but at the end of the first lap, Pliskin fights back on the outside, and he leads the first lap. However, Alan Hodges is a better run coming into turns 1 and 2, and Alan Hodges moves into the lead of the race. Here's a little view from Michael Sykes' car. Sykes started 38th of 39 cars. Of course, this is his first short track race. First caution was on lap 3. Lee Gruelle on the yellow and blue, number 46 Xenos, gets a little bump from behind by countryman Marcus Leonard. He spins into the outside wall in turn 1, and he's able to continue. On that yellow, Tom Delgado in the 837 lost a lap to try to fix a mechanical issue that had been plaguing him for a while. You'll notice Arto Käkkinen also in the pits. But Delgado's trying to fight to unlap himself, as Alan Hodges in the 13 car is still the leader. Delgado makes a move on the inside. Hodges gives him plenty of room and lets him go by, but Matt Taylor in the 12 takes advantage, and Taylor now moves up into the lead. Tom Delgado got lucky because he caught a caution very quickly. Matthias Taub in the number 38 STS and Scott Stoidler in the Schaefer Group car are going to get in a little incident. Taub loses the back end of the car, collects Stoidler, and Taub hits the pit lane, and Taub drops out of the race very early on. Stoidler apparently hits the wall there. Apparently a bit of a mistake. Looks like Taub, just lost the back end coming off of turn 2, and he tried to gather the car up and slow it down, but he lost the back end again coming into the pits. As Lance mentioned earlier, there was a practice incident between Ethan Everett and Allie Riggs, and apparently that's how Ethan Everett wanted to settle it. This had instant karma, as Ethan Everett dropped out of the race, and Allie Riggs continued. By the way, Allie Riggs didn't even lose a lap. Alexis Rainsford, the points leader, is currently the race leader. Michael Sykes in car 144 took no tires under that yellow flag. Woody Watts in the 041 and Arto Käkkinen are both off the lead lap. There was a caution, though, right on the restart. Leon Keniston and Rachel Rainsford had a bit of a dispute under that yellow flag over pit road contact, if I'm not mistaken. And while they're trying to settle their grievances, there's McGlynn going by. She's off the lead lap. But on the restart, Rachel Rainsford's car bogs down. Lee Gruelle's going to get in the back of Rachel Rainsford, courtesy of Yulia Nasova, and Danny Savin hammers into this one. Danny Savin, we're being told, was supposed to be on the inside because he dropped off the lead lap because of a long pit stop. And Savin did try to slow down to miss this one, but he braked way too late and had just a huge head of steam coming up. So, it looks like a bit of a mistake from Savin puts him out of the race, and Lee Gruelle also an early exit. Matt Taylor is in second, and Adrian Devereaux is in the lead. Woody Watts in the 041 trying to get his lap back, as is Zelda Ashby in the 55. Most of the leaders pitted again. I'm not really sure why, but Devereaux opted to stay out. That strategy appears to be working. Zach Duff, they had to pull the hood off car 28 because of a pit road incident under the last yellow, but now Duff is this caution because Chris Johans runs into the back of him. Duff flips the car. There goes Johans, or Stoidler almost rolls his car. Curtis Darcy in that white and black 959 car. Marcus Leonard's involved, and Yumino Tenchi also. Gonna have a look on here. Looks like Johannes just runs into the back of the 28 car and spins him around. Marcus Leonard has nowhere to go but into the door of Scott Seidler. And Marcus Leonard drops out of the race, along with Yumino Tenchi in the 831. That looks kind of marginal. Duff pulled up into Johannes, but Johannes didn't exactly give him too much room. And Duff barrel rolls the car several times, so looks like an early exit for car 28. Carlos Donzello leads on this restart with Alexis Rainsford in second. Interestingly enough, Alexis Rainsford also had some pit lane contact, and that's why there's no hood on the 27. Fifth caution on lap 35. This had involved the only two orange cars in the field, Leonid Roderick and Anthony Evans. Roderick sees the hole, tries to go for it, but it closes up too quickly. Anthony Evans hits the inside wall. Stephanie McGlynn is collected. Both go into the outside wall in turn one. And that pretty much is, looked like a bit too opportunistic by Roderick this early in the race, and that's a tough break for Anthony Evans because he struggled to qualify, and Japanese driver Azuma Kazuyama would be leading on the restart. He hasn't had much of his season so far. He's been languishing behind his teammates, and there's been some rumors that he'll be dropped if he does not pick up the pace, which would be a shame, really, because he's actually not. He hasn't done that bad of a job, but he has been outpaced by Tom Delgado and Yumino Tenchi. Leon Keniston is currently running second. Caution 6 on lap 42. Not even close to halfway. Alexis and Rachel Rainsford are going to squeeze each other together. Rachel bounces into Zelda Ashby in the 55, and Ashby goes into the turn 1 wall and continues on. Gonna have another look at this one from the aerial view. Looks like Rachel Rainsford in the 99 just slides up in turn 4. Doesn't give Alexis a whole lot of room. Bounces off the front of Scott Stoidler's front bumper and into Ashby. So, looks like that one can't really put on anybody. That was just kind of too many cars and too small a space. Under that yellow flag, Brian Sendak in the 8 lost turbo pressure and he came into the pits. The crew tried to repair it, but it was pretty obvious that Brian Sendak wasn't going to be going anywhere. Carlos Donzello in the 22 car led on the restart with Tony Durbin in second. And Drew Eisenman, who is off to the Marines after this season, running in the 3rd position. You'll notice Alan Hodges not on the lead lap anymore after a bad pit stop as well for the car number 13. Tony Durbin makes a move. Carlos Donzello is holding him up a little bit. Durbin's got a faster car, and he knows it, and he's going to move on under the inside of Carlos, and he's obviously not giving Carlos much room going down the back straightaway. Carlos goes way wide, and Tony Durbin moves into the lead of the race, and his teammate Drew Eisenman moves into second. This was a familiar sight. Tony Durbin in the lead and Drew Eisenman in second. Whenever that's happened, they've usually gone on to score 1-2s. At least that's how it seemed to be early in the season. Of course, Durbin and Eisenman, both from Texas, and they're both having a very strong run today. We haven't seen Eisenman have the better of Durbin very often, but it looks like Eisenman may have one of his better chances to do so today. However, if you think Eisenman is going to be content of running back there in second, you're completely mistaken. Because a few laps later, he challenged Tony Durbin for the lead after figuring out Durbin's lines. Moved on the inside, but Durbin was able to use the outside line to fight back. Tony Durbin using the faster outside line coming off of turn 4 to hold on to the lead and to give Eisenman a very difficult time battling for the lead. It's great to see a lot of side-by-side racing on this old-style track. As Durbin is trying to get by Eisenman, there's the lap car of Watts. Oh, Watts is able to get out of the way, and Durbin and Eisenman are able to resume their battle, but Watts is going to be in the way now, and Durbin is going to hold on to the lead as of now, but Eisenman fights back on the inside. And Drew Eisenman in car 31 moves into the lead as Durbin notices Azuma Kazuyama is on the move in car 839. And Durbin appears to be quite content on running behind Eisenman for the time being, probably in hopes of saving his tires. Azuma Kazuyama on the charge in the 839 machine, running a very close third. Leonid Roderick is running a somewhat distant fourth. Roderick appears to be opting on saving his tires rather than going for an all-out run. In 5th position is Allie Riggs, believe it or not, so this is obviously even worse for Ethan Everett, probably the last thing he wanted to see, with Leon Keniston in car 39 running in 6th. Of course, Leon Keniston made the early part of his career before the Master Cup Series on short tracks. And Jacques Bouvier is running in the 7th position, and Alexis Rainsford running in 8th. The Hoodless Brigade, I think we should call them at this stage of the game. Of course, Bouvier has been somewhat of a good finish or crash driver, and Alexis Rainsford sort of has been the same this season. Tom Delgado is currently running 9th, so a great recovery drive by Tom Delgado, who had a mechanical failure in qualifying, started last, moved up all the way to 9th. Of course, 39 cars started today's race. And in 10th is Chris Johans in car number 24. That car is beaten and battered, but you really don't need a car with perfect aerodynamics to be fast here, due to the very short straightaways here at the Grand Detour of Quincy. And Mike Whitmore in car number 20 sits in the 11th spot. Of course, Chris Johans and Scott Stoidler's teammate, replacing Gary Edwards in this car. And in 12th is the pole sitter, Kurt Pliskin in the JD Predator, having a very strong run after both Marcus Leonard and Zelda Ashby encountered problems earlier in the race. Michael Sykes in car number 144 and Craig Yonser in car 69, the two Omechas in the field, are running 13th and 14th. Of course, they're both Independence Trophy candidates. You notice something else about those cars? No damage on them. They've been keeping their noses very clean, and of course, for someone like Michael Sykes, who really has very little to no oval experience, it's a great job by him on his, first oval start at this track. Lap 78, Tony Durbin hits the pit lane, and lap 84, Michael Sykes also hits the pits. Durbin is apparently gambling that tire wear will be his advantage, because the rest of the field is going about 2 seconds slower. You saw Leonid Roderick make a big slide there on the back straightaway. This leaves Drew Eisman in the lead, and of course Leonid Roderick would be second. Tony Durbin, like in a bad racing movie, was running about 2 seconds quicker than the whole field, and that's pretty obvious right there. He's blowing by everyone as if they're not there. However, the catch is that Tony Durbin at this point is 2 laps down, so he's got quite a bit of distance to make up if he's hoping to regain the lead. By the way, Alexis Rainsford in that 27 car also pitted on lap 85, and that, of course, is a battle for position between Durbin and Alexis Rainsford. And of course, we all know how much those two get along, so this could be interesting. A little further back, here is Michael Sykes, and you can notice that even Michael Sykes is beginning to blow by Drew Eisman as if he, pretty much isn't even there. On lap 99, Eisman appears to notice this and hits the pit lane in the 31 car. On lap 111, Leonid Roderick pits. He's the last of the cars to make a stop. Azuma Kazuyama and Leonid Roderick. Tony Durbin, after that pit stop cycle, is currently in the lead. However, Tony Durbin has been on those tires longer than everyone else. Alexis Rainsford is currently running in second. So, Tony Durbin and Alexis Rainsford's big advantage may not last very long if this green flag run continues. Lap 117, Jacques Bouvier is running third. Azuma Kazuyama is running in fourth. Very close battle here. Bouvier, in particular, having a very good run because, of course, this is not one of those tracks that he seems to excel. In fifth position is this car, Woody Watts in the Catziv. A very good drive for Woody so far, especially since he fell off the lead lap much earlier in the race. Caution 7 flew on lap 126. Well, old feuds seem to die hard. Well, new feuds seem to as well. Alexis Rainsford rides Rachel Rainsford coming off turn 4. Spins both into the wall, and Alexis rolls the car. Lewis Kingston gets collected. Apparently that was a little revenge for earlier. Alexis, over the radio, wasn't too happy with Rachel earlier in the race, and apparently just took an opportunity to put Rachel in the wall. But that seemed to have backfired because Alexis took herself into the wall, rolls the 27 car. Lewis Kingston in the 44 involved as well. And the graphic says enough as far as that's concerned. Chris Johan suffered the same problem as Brian Sendak earlier, no turbo pressure. Leon Kennison had a little bit of a issue with Allie Riggs under this yellow, and Riggs responds by pushing Leon Kennison down towards the pit wall, which the officials weren't too happy with in the first place. But that's not all of the Allie Riggs drama. Apparently, there's some kind of issue where she thinks she's in front of Arto Kekkonen at this point, even though she's clearly not. Azuma Kazuyama regains the lead on this restart. Woody Watts gets a very slow restart from second, and Leonid Roderick in that orange number 4 is sitting in third. Carlos Sanzello and Alan Hodges no factor in the battle for the lead. Allie Riggs gets pinged for an improper restart when she goes by Arto Kekkonen on the restart, when Allie Riggs was actually supposed to line up behind the 14 car. Leonid Roderick in car number 4 moves behind the 839 of Azuma Kazuyama. You'll notice that Allie Riggs is black flag, given a drive-through for that, or stop and go for that penalty, for that restart. Leonid Roderick continues to lead the race, and he appears to be pulling away from the rest of the field. Roderick in this number 4 car appears to be mostly undamaged, despite a couple of incidents earlier in the race. The Le Gruel incident damaged the right rear just a little bit, and of course, that little opportunistic move on Anthony Evans. Roderick's car appears to be completely undamaged. It's one of only a few cars like that. Azuma Kazuyama has a little bit of front-end damage in car 839, but that doesn't seem to be affecting him because he's still running at very competitive speeds, but he just hasn't seemed to have the pace of Leonid Roderick. Ditto for Woody Watts in this 041. He's had a very good run so far. This is probably one of those drives that's going to get Watts a ride next season, and that would certainly be a good thing to see. Jacques Bouvier is currently running in the 5th position. Of course, Bouvier is the last car on the lead lap at this point in the race. Curtis Darcy is driving this 959 car. We haven't had much time to talk about him because there's been so much action early in the event. Darcy has been Lenard's reserve driver, and he's also been running the TM Junior Series. However, this is one of those tracks that Darcy seems to be excelling at, and even though he's only running 23rd, for someone making only their third or fourth Master Cup attempt this year on their first start, not a bad job to have survived this long in the race. Caution 8 was on lap 179. Drew Eisenman in car 31 is having a little bit of a battle with Craig Yonser in the 69. However, Mike Whitmore makes a move on Eisenman and puts Eisenman in the wall. Takes Milano Rossini in the 06 as well. Mike Whitmore was apologetic over the radio, but that's going to take Drew Eisenman and Woody Watts, both of them were on the lead lap, out of contention. That's not going to go over too well. Well, here we are. Woody Watts just doesn't have anywhere to go. His options pretty much run out. Either crash into Eisenman or crash into Rossini. And that's going to end Woody Watts' day after a sterling drive. Completely flawless up until the very last 5 seconds of it. Leonid Roderick and Azuma Kazuyama and Jacques Bouvier, of course, are left as the only 3 cars in the lead lap. But our final caution flies right after the restart. Carlos Donzello and Arto Kekkonen get together, and that's going to send Kekkonen into the inside wall, Donzello into retirement, as well as Nasova in the 7. Of course, Carlos' day is going to come to an end. Looks like just kind of contact between Donzello and Kekkonen. Whoa, Nasova gets some air. That's going to damage the suspension on car number 7, and Nasova and Arto Kekkonen both drop out of the race, along with Carlos Donzello. Azuma Kazuyama is still running second to Leonid Roderick. Roderick's letting most of the lap cars, including Tony Durbin, I should note, go by. Tony Durbin's tire gamble doesn't appear to have paid off. Roderick's, on the other hand, appears to have Roderick's tire gamble, on the other hand, appears to have paid off, and he's gotten himself a fairly strong lead over Kazuyama. Bouvier, on the other hand, has gotten around Azuma Kazuyama, making a very strong case that maybe having your hood off the car after it's damaged appears to be the way to go, because Bouvier having a strong run so far, and Adrian Devereaux in car number 26 has actually just unlapped himself, so Devereaux is running in 4th, now in the lead lap. Tony Durbin, despite a tire gamble that hasn't paid off, still in the top 5. Tom Delgado in car 837 is running in 8th. I'm pointing this out because he has fallen on and off the lead lap more times than I think anyone else. Tom Delgado is currently running 2 laps down, and despite the fact that Kazuyama is having the better of him this race, he is making a very clear case to his team owner Takumi Katashima that maybe he is worth keeping on for another year. Katashima certainly seems to have a high confidence in Delgado's experience. Of the 3 Independence Trophy cars that are still running, Allie Riggs is running 9th, Michael Sykes in the 144 car is running in 15th, and running in 17th is Craig Yonser in the number 69 car, driving for J.D. McDermott. There hasn't been too many scratches on this 69 car, but just haven't seen the pace that some of the other ones have had. Azuma Kazuyama in car 839 makes a spirited chase to catch Leonid Roderick, but he runs out of time as Leonid Roderick takes home his first win of the season. Kazuyama finishes second, Jacques Bouvier in third, and Adrien Devereaux, the only 4 cars in the lead lap at the end of this one. Zelda Ashby brings car 55 home in fifth. A very strong run for Ashby today. Alan Hodges and Tony Durbin dropped a few more spots at the end of the race to Ashby and to Alan Hodges. Tom Delgado wound up in 8th, and Allie Riggs, a very strong 9th despite being 2 laps off the lead, and Scott Stoidler rounds out the top 10 in the Camelot Racing Tremwell. And here are the points leaving the Round of Quincy. Alexis Rainsford still holds on to the lead despite a incident in the middle of the race, though if she gets slapped with a penalty, that might change things up. Alan Hodges moves up to second, and Adrien Devereaux down to third. Drew Eisenman and Tony Durbin, the Team Sir USA Brigade, fourth and fifth. Marcus Leonard and Arto Kekin, and of course Marcus Leonard has a very interesting record this season. As of right now, he has 8 top 10 finishes, but he has 4 DNFs. So Marcus Leonard, not exactly the most consistent driver in the Master Cup Series circuit as of right now. Arto Kakinen in car number 14, 7th in the championship. 8th is Leonid Roderick with the win, Ethan Everett 9th, and Jacques Bouvier of France rounds out the top 10. And here's a look at 11 through 20. Scott Stoidler, Kurt Pliskin, Chris Johans, Zelda Ashby, 170 markers off the lead. Matt Taylor, the 04 champion. Scott Bates. Very strong run for Bates, even though it doesn't really look like it. Of course, driving a new car that hasn't had too much development time, but he's doing a fantastic job with it. Great run so far this year for Scott Bates. Woody Watts and Yulia Nasova driving another car that's had even less development than the EFR Journey car. Of course, driving the Katsiv KE01 has not exactly been the most fun thing for them this year, and looks like they're making a very good job of it. And Dale Roswell, the 1989 Master Cup Series champion. Of course, Roswell has the longest career. If you, well, as far as time is concerned, I think he made his debut about 30 years ago, seemingly. And Leon Keniston in car number 39 holds on to the 20th spot in points. I should point out that Tom Delgado and Yumino Tenchi are both tied for 21st, and Azuma Kazuyama is sitting in 23rd in the championship. And here are the Independence Trophy standings. Leaving Quincy, Michael Sykes is on top of the boards with 209 points. Michael Sykes' worst finish is 24th. Craig Yonser sits second. The reason he's as far behind Michael Sykes as he is in part due to the points penalty he got at Carbondale, because of course the best 4 results count, and that penalty Yonser received put him a bit further behind. The Welshman, Nils Talonen, hangs on to third, but he still has the Round of Russia coming up, and of course Talonen is entered in that race. Allie Riggs jumps up to 4th, Wodarczyk sits 5th, Cyrus Laterza drops all the way down to 6th. And at one point in the season, it looked like Laterza was going to run away with this. Charlie Waters sits in 7th, but Waters has been very strong, just has a few more races still to run. The Xenos of Le Gruel sits 8th, Colin Evans in 9th, and then Joel Rodriguez in the 86 rounds out the top 10 in the Independence Trophy standings.